Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com. Leif Segerstam, we all know him, the wonderful conductor of all kinds of things, did a complete Mahler cycle in Denmark for Chandos Records, which is now out of print. I've looked. I don't see it anywhere other than, the remnants of individual titles, but the box seems to be long gone. And it's a shame because it had some beautiful things in it, but it also had some very odd things in it. And part of the oddness of it was Segerstam's tendency, A, to distend tempi and play things rather slowly, and B, to play without the necessary accent or emphasis. He was always interested in, the hunt for the inner voice or for strange details of things like string articulation or whatnot. In other words, he was micromanaging. He was not seeing the forest for the trees. And the trees are important in Mahler, especially in these big, long movements he writes. They're terribly important. I remember once when I was talking to him, I asked him at the end of Mahler's second, you've got the two tam-tams. It's going da-dum, crash, pow, the two tam-tams. It's wonderful. And I said to him, why is it he was, instead of, doing it the way Mahler wrote it, he was making them do crescendos. It was going whoosh-hoo, like that. And it wasn't terribly effective, I thought. I thought the way Mahler wrote it sounded pretty good if you actually do it the way he wrote it. And I said to him, why did you do these tam-tam rolls rather than just playing it the way Mahler wrote it? And he looked at me with a maniacal gleam in his eye, and he said, because I wanted it to be louder! Like that. He said, louder! He's a little nuts, And so that's how he did it. And I said to him, yeah, okay, that's nice, except it isn't louder. It isn't louder at all. You could play it really loudly the way Mahler wrote it. But that, to me, sort of encapsulated his concept of a lot of this music. He had reasons for everything that he did. They just didn't always work the way he thought they were going to. All of which is a long way of talking about the dreadfulness of this new performance of Mahler's Fourth. And on the ALBA label, could this be the beginning of yet another Mahler cycle? I have no idea. I hope not, to be honest with you, unless unbelievable things are going to happen after this Mahler Fourth. This is with the Turku Philharmonic Orchestra, of which Segerstam is now the director. And you don't have to worry about the orchestra. They sound great. They have, like so many formerly provincial or still provincial orchestras, they have grown by leaps and bounds, and particularly in Finland, where the musical culture seems to multiply in an exponential or logarithmic way. They've just improved immeasurably. So they sound lovely, and that has nothing to do with it. They certainly have the ability to give Segerstam everything that he wants, and that's the problem. What does he want? Apparently, he wants playing of extraordinary affectation, enervation, lack of muscle, lack of firmness, fussiness, and they do it all. They do it all. It's just amazing how they do it. Mahler, in the finale of this symphony, writes a note to the singer, a little note to the soprano. Here it's a mezzo-soprano. Also a problem, but we'll get to that in a moment. The note reads as follows. I have it here because I just thought it would be fun to chat about it. So here it is. He writes, Singstimme mit kindlich heiterem Ausdruck, durchaus ohne Parodie! Exclamation point. All right, what does this mean? This means voice with a childlike, bright, bright, open, friendly expression throughout without parody. Now, that could very, very well be the motto of the entire symphony, without parody. Even in the second movement, which has plenty of parody in the sense that it's supposed to be sardonic and mysterious and creepy and spooky. But parodistic, I don't know. This symphony is entirely fresh and innocent and honest and open in its emotional states. Now, the fact that this is expressed in a musical language which is neoclassical and extremely stylized, it's sort of like faux Schubert, Mozart, at least the first movement is. That's another issue. It has to be played with total, complete sincerity. And Segerstam's problem is that he plays it with total, complete self-consciousness. And that's lethal in this music. The first movement is it's almost like an abstract exercise in polyphonic or contrapuntal dialogue played very slowly so that you have time to do something with every single note. It's kind of like, if all of the instruments were being played by Elizabeth Schwarzkopf. If you can imagine such a thing, an orchestra of Elizabeth Schwarzkopfs, with every note, every phrase manipulated in some kind of way. But the irony of it is that for all of this attention to detail, he misses the big picture. And like so many people who can fuss in innumerable ways when there are only a few instruments playing, it all goes to hell. There are a lot of instruments playing. Consider the climax, the first climax of the development section, the one with the big swat on the tam-tam. You don't hear it. Well, you don't hear the tam-tam swat, but more importantly than that, as if anything could be more important than the tam-tam swat, you would think that Segerstam would do one of his roles in crescendi, do something, but no, nothing. It's not there. The point is, the tune isn't there. The tune is played by a solo trumpet. The solo trumpet is going bum ba da 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 dum ba ba da 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 da, like that, right? It's a tune. It's very simple. Well, you hear something starting in the back and it gets buried immediately, and there is no tune, and that's a problem. It's a big problem, and and even with the tempo as slow as it is, it's a problem. And I don't know why Segerstam wasn't paying attention to that. You'd think a guy who has that much obsession about, things like, slurs in the violin part, you'd want to hear the tune played by the guy who has the tune. But you don't. And that's terrible. That's inexcusable. And then there's his tendency to distend the tempi. Now, the timing for the first movement is on the slow side. It really is. Hang on, let me tell you what it is. I've got it sitting here in little bookie land. Here's the bookie. 18 minutes and 9 seconds. That is slow. But the slowness is not entirely stretched out over the whole piece. It's in spots. One of those spots is the coda. The coda, where the first theme comes back very gradually. It has this long romantic die out. Well, of the 18 minutes and 9 seconds of the first movement, probably 16 minutes and 4 seconds consists of those 5 or 6 measures in the coda. It's just, okay, so that's the first movement. The second movement is incredibly boring. It's just way too slow. It's over 11 minutes long. And, it's a waltz. Or a Ländler, which is the precursor of the waltz, the Austrian folk dance. But it's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, da 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 da. It has to flow. This is just, da 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 da. It's so monotonous, horribly monotonous. And then we come to the Adagio. The Adagio. Well, I almost had a conniption. I broke out into a sweat when I saw this because it says, here's the booklet. There you go. You see what that says? The length of the Adagio, which usually lasts about 20 to 22 minutes. 29:50. Half an hour. I was going, oh my God. And after the first two movements, which are absolutely lethally dull and comatose, how was I going to get through this? And then I started listening to it, and it's like, this doesn't sound too slow. Didn't seem too slow. Turns out it's a misprint. Thank God. 21 minutes and a bit. It's a nice, normal tempo. It is the only movement in the symphony essentially, that goes at this nice, normal tempo. And it's the best part of the whole performance. It's beautifully done, aside, as always, from Segerstam's tendency to interrupt the natural flow of the music by, to bringing out one of those inner voices or accompanimental lines and making it more important than the tune. I mean, you should never do that. The tune is always the most important thing. You should always know where the tune is. And Segerstam is a really, really brilliant musician. He knows where the tune is. And if he's bored and wants to do something unusual, don't do it at our expense. Go have a good time. Don't make a record. So then we come to the finale. The finale is sung by Essi Lutinen, who is a mezzo-soprano. That is a mistake. She is just not good. She has the wrong voice for this song completely. She has too much vibrato, too much heaviness. Her pronunciation is a little strange. Not that that matters. I don't really care. I just want the right timbre. I want what Mahler wants. And there are wonderful, wonderful performances of this finale by singers like Rary Grist for Bernstein, Natanya Davrath for Abravanel, Kathleen Battle for Mazel. It has to have that pure, innocent, childlike simplicity of expression. And you're not getting that here. It's just the wrong sound. And when you add to that the slowish basic tempo and the subdued quality of the accompaniment. Now, Mahler says in a footnote that the accompaniment has to be very discreet. That is, it should not cover the voice. But there's a difference between discreet and disembodied. and Segerstam crosses over that line. He really does. I mean, there are so many fine Mahler Fourths out there, right? We all know. Go look at my video on Mahler Fourth. We've talked about it endlessly. There is no excuse for doing a new one. A, just to be different for its own sake, and B, if you're not going to be fabulous. If you haven't heard all of those other ones and you've decided you can do them one better, and at least try. I was interested in hearing this for the very fine playing of the Turku Philharmonic Orchestra. And I was curious to see if something had changed since Segerstam's last go-round, which was quite similar, by the way. It really was. The Chandos recording of the Fourth, it was not one of his better efforts. But, the Sixth was what was really good that first cycle. The Sixth was marvelous, with the third hammer blow, by the way. But no. This is just a very, very mannered performance with no energy, no excitement, and none of that naturalness and freshness that this music ought to have. It shouldn't sound tired and decadent. And this is tired and decadent. Oh, so decadent. We're not listening to Salome here. This is Mahler 4. So, what can I tell you? It's a failure. It's a failure. It's a dud. Keep on listening, folks, to the good Mahler Fours. Thank you for joining me. Take care.